Former President Donald Trump is the Republican nominee for president. He's the first major party candidate since Franklin Roosevelt to accept 3 consecutive party nominations.
The question is, who will he run against? There are strong indications that President Biden may drop out of the race as early as this weekend. CBN chief political analyst David Brody has more.
Fresh off an assassination attempt, former President Trump came to the GOP convention with a new script, a speech that began with calls for unity.
I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States.
For the first 30 minutes or so of his speech, the nation saw a more reflective Trump as he recounted the events of last weekend.
I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here. I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God.
After retelling the events, he walked over to the helmet and firefighter's jacket that belonged to Corey Compertor, who lost his life at the rally. It was an emotional night for sure, with Franklin Graham giving thanks to God.
Our Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening with grateful hearts. Thank you for saving the life of President Donald J. Trump.
As for the rest of the speech, it was classic campaign fare, but without much of the harsh rhetoric. There was only one mention of President Biden, and really only one main dig at Democrats.
The Democrat Party should immediately stop weaponizing the justice system and labeling their political opponent as an enemy of democracy. Especially since that is not true. In fact, I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country.
While Trump showed a more subdued side, some before him revved up the crowd, especially former pro wrestler Hulk Hogan, who provided, well, the visual highlight of the evening.
Let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
And speaking of wrestling, Gordon, it looks like Democrats are going to try to wrestle the nomination from President Biden. The latest, of course, now Barack Obama telling close associates that Biden's chances are greatly diminished. So you have that, plus the fact that veteran political journalist Mark Halpern, who is very well connected, says that Biden will, at this point, resign from the campaign this weekend. We'll see if that comes true. Gordon?
Well, let's talk about Trump's speech first. He spoke at length about the assassination and in great detail, and frequently mentioned God and mentioned that in his view, God saved him. So how do you think that near-death experience changed him?
Well, it definitely changed him. And of course, we know them by their fruits. So we'll find out here as the months and years go on. And but it's no doubt changed him. I mean, he's talked about God before, but not this frequently and not this reflectively, if you will. It was different this time around. He was talking about concepts, listen to me about concepts, but loyalty, gratitude, thankfulness. I mean, we heard these words out of Donald Trump's mouth. We really haven't heard much of that, if at all, on the campaign trail, but it was all in that speech because he rewrote the speech. So I think the biggest line from the speech that really kind of set the tone of where his heart is at right now is that he said, I shouldn't even be here. And the crowd was chanting, yes, you should be here. You know, yes, you are. Yes, you are. And he said, no, I really shouldn't. A quarter of an inch could make a big difference in not just the life of this nation, but really about Donald Trump, actually.
Well, do you think the new call for unity, it was supposed to be a theme of the convention, not all the speakers held to that, but should this theme of unity, will it carry into the campaign? And should we expect that the rhetoric is going to be toned down going forward?
Well, we'll see about that. I'm never convinced that unity wins out at the end of the day in politics, in American politics, especially in this day and age. Having said that, there is an opportunity here for Trump. And what I mean by that is that the Republicans, specifically Trump's campaign, is looking to expand the map. I mean, this is not, it's not as brass knuckle as it needs to be at this point. In other words, they're solidly ahead in a lot of these swing states, and then they're trying to expand the map into Minnesota and Virginia and New Hampshire and a couple other places. And so because of that, Donald Trump has an opportunity to actually preach the unity rather than the brass knuckle approach based on the fact of where he is in the polls. So electorally and politically, it could give more oxygen to the unity talk.
Well, I hope so. In times past, when I was more active in politics, I remember counseling a candidate who was clearly winning. Stop the attacks. You don't need to do it. It's time to start moving into governing mode. And if you stay in campaign mode, it's actually going to hurt you. Realize you're winning, and in that, start talking about what you're going to do. And you're going to need the other side to be along with you just to get bills passed. So my hope is this will happen. Let's turn to the Democrats. It looks like they're in remarkable disarray and can't come to agreement on some pretty basic things like who's going to run for president. So what are you hearing about President Biden dropping out of the race?
It's just a matter of time at this point. The Democrats and America have kind of come to the conclusion, not so much the Democrats, but definitely Americans, that the emperor has no clothes. It's one of those situations. And for the Democrats, this is clearly the worst case scenario. So we're now at a point where we're looking at days, not weeks here. I think it could happen potentially this weekend, but definitely within the next week, because remember, what happens in Washington, Gordon, is the stories start to leak about Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama and Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries all basically saying, they've been telling Biden to get out of the race. Well, soon those leaked stories become public comments. And what the last thing the Democrats need is Schumer and Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries to go to the microphones and actually make public comments, which could come next week if indeed he doesn't get out.
Well, I think it's still going to be up to him. And if his family says, finish the race, I think that's going to happen. I have to give credit to Terry Musin. Way back in May, she told me that she was hearing that he was going to probably drop out right before the convention. And I frankly was like, I don't see that happening. All of this before the June debate and now the current conversation. So Terry, what got you to the point where you thought he was going to do that?
Well, like so many people have been saying, I think we have seen things increase lately, but I mean, it's been evident for a while that there are some issues there for the president. I want to say, my heart goes out to him because having to have the whole world watch you age when you're struggling with some things is a horrible way to have to contend with all of this. That said, I think some hard decisions have to be made here by many people. And I mean, he doesn't trust my insider information. Let me just say that.
I think it was your observation that perhaps he was on a downward trajectory. So I've got to give you credit. You did it. Let's go back to David. Let's talk about who would be the candidate. Let's do a hypothetical. Biden gets the message, I can't win this, I need to drop out. Is this going to be Vice President Harris, or are we going to see a fight on the convention floor?
Well, a couple of things here. First of all, I've been talking to about 4 Democrat sources, one of them a pretty high up level Democrat who says that it's going to be Kamala. She's got the funding behind her. She'll have the delegates behind her. These delegates voted for Biden, so she's part of that ticket, if you will. And it would be really a travesty for that reason. Number one. So I think it's going to be Kamala ultimately. I think what to look for here, Gordon, a couple things. One, we talked about this, whether Biden actually goes ahead and air quote endorses Kamala in some sort of resignation from the campaign speech. So we'll wait to see about that. But even if he doesn't, Kamala will probably go in, Vice President Harris will go in with some sort of moderate. Because remember, she's pushed a lot of leftist policies on Americans. And so look for people like Andy Beshear, the moderate governor, Democrat governor of Kentucky, maybe a Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. I think that's what she'll probably try to do. So we're getting ahead of ourselves. But honestly, like I said, it's just a matter of time. I'm sure we'll have a conversation next week about Biden no longer running for president. And then the conversation will turn to what does Kamala do? But I think that's what's going to happen.
Give us a forecast in a head-to-head between Harris and Trump. Who's got the edge?
Well, it's no doubt Donald Trump has the edge because the problem here, and what many Democrats argue, is that Harris is clearly tied to Biden. So remember, this really ultimately, I know we talk about Harris and Biden and debate performances and this and that, but ultimately the tide was already turning against Biden based on a lot of the policies, a lot of the substance that has not gone in his direction, whether it be everything back from Afghanistan to inflation, the economy, immigration. It was already all there. So in a way, the cake's been baked for a while, and it might just be a placeholder situation at this point. It might not matter. And as for other people getting in against Kamala Harris, why would they do it, Gordon? Because right now, Donald Trump is in a potential to have a landslide victory, not just a close one. Why would any Democrat want to put themselves out there for that?
Oh, that's a good point. I think we're going to hear border czar a great deal going forward if she is the candidate. We're going to hear a lot of that. So, David, thanks for your insight, and it looks like you're going to be staying very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gordon.